How are you doing? So, were you
I went to a conference on the day after, so I was able to go and spend all my time. So you go in and delete all the junk. And then I missed the positive stuff.
I know such a girl. I know how it goes. Don't miss those days. What day? I thought you would say all night. No, I would say. I'm sorry.
So were you going to talk as well?
No.
I talked to her.
I went down and got this.
It's really okay because I never get that.
Did she answer? I warned her. How many? If I asked you, I mean, this is the next one. Oh, thanks. Hey, give me a, I mean, how long? Did you give Jack? Okay. And I got one for, thank you for, I don't know what to do. I think. I'm sorry, you asked me about Jack. I'm sorry.
You'll be the last
Well, the first thing you said, I guess you got access to it. Are the bolts down? Okay.
Okay, I have 7 o'clock on my computer, so I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Lake Mills City Council for Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. Sam, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Quidnow?
Here.
Mr. Waters?
Here?
Ms. Curler?
Here.
Ms. Schmager?
Here.
Mr. Coots?
Here.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is correction and acceptance of the City Council meeting minutes from March 17th. Are there any comments or corrections? Okay, seeing none, we'll accept those into our record. Next, we have board and committee reports and meeting minutes. So we do have Shelley Quant here from the Joint Rock Lake Committee. So I'll ask Shelley to come up and give her verbal report for us tonight.
Hi, everybody. I guess the committee just wanted to give you guys an update on a number of decisions that were made at our last meeting based on requests that were made to us by the town, as well as interests of the community that have been brought forward to us. So the first one was regarding Bartles Beach and people bringing boats up onto the sand just outside of the swim area. I know Eric Schreiner last year had mentioned that after Memorial Day that he was going to move the swim line and was waiting on a different anchor or something of the sort to move that swim line a little further out to dissuade people from bringing their boats up onto shore. But we as a committee started talking about that a little bit further, and we are recommending no action to move those swim lines because that's a very popular area for launching kayaks. And if we're encouraging kayak launching in a swim area, that's kind of contradictory. And if we were to make those same motions to not allow boats to pull up onto the sand at Bartles Beach, then we really ought to be consistent and do the same thing at Sandy Beach. And at this point in time, I'd much rather I guess the committee had discussed, and we decided that it's better to encourage people to come use the restrooms at both Bartles and Sandy Beach rather than not. So we'll leave it there. So there is that consistency. Second of all, the town had recommended, asked us to make a recommendation as to whether or not to keep the swim area at Ferry Park open. They were concerned with closures, the frequency of closures, et cetera, at that site, and then maintaining that swim area as well. So I did a little research and brought forward some statistics that showed that actually Ferry Park is not the most frequently closed swim area on the lake. Sandy Beach, I believe east, west.
I think it's
Has
west,
that honor.
yeah.
Sandy
It's
Beach
west.
West has that honor, yes. So our recommendation to the town was to maintain Ferry Park as a swim area. The third one was regarding permanent piers and the pier ordinance. The question was, you know, what should the pier ordinance say and what sort of permitting should be in place regarding permanent piers? And when there are issues regarding pier placement, encroaching on neighbors, et cetera, with removable piers, that's something that's really easy to address and move forward. But once a permanent pier is installed, it's permanent. So the question was, what would we like to recommend to the town? And we did recommend to the town that they review the pier ordinance regarding permanent piers and create a permitting process for permanent piers to look into, are we enforcing that ordinance prior to the installation of permanent piers? And then also further, as scientific data is collected regarding the environmental impact of permanent piers, further amendments to the pier ordinance may be recommended, but not until we receive further data. And then the fourth was recommending to the town to place 2 to 4 slow no wake buoys. We're kind of estimating 3 at this point, along Tyranina Park at a distance of 100 feet from shore. What had been brought to us by the Rock Lake Improvement Association was to create, was a recommendation to create a 200-foot slow no wake ordinance for the entire perimeter of the lake. And the idea behind that, or one of the concerns behind that, was safety for those who swim their dogs and who wade to go fishing and who swim from Tyranina Park. State law says that boats may operate within 100 feet from shore, yet swimmers can swim within 150 feet from shore. So that's a 50-foot overlap there. That's a concern because both would be within their rights, and we just don't want an accident to happen. So placing buoys creates a visual barrier to separate swimmers and boaters, whereas if we were to pass a 200-foot ordinance for the entire lake, that still is subject to enforcement, and it's a challenge to actually decide what's 100 feet, what's 200 feet, what's 150 feet, and who's within what rights. So placing those buoys is a recommendation that we did make. It's going to take some time, probably won't happen this year to see those buoys placed. There's a process that needs to be followed to apply and mark where those buoys would be located and then go through the approval process. And lastly, we have one member who has chosen not to renew his position on the Joint Rock Lake Committee, and Pat Stevens is stepping down. He is a city representative, so we are looking for a new city representative for the Joint Rock Lake Committee. So if anybody knows anybody, we'd be happy to have them.
Thank you, Shelley.
Any questions?
Any questions for Shelley? All right, thanks for your report.
Thanks.
We usually get your reports monthly through our clerk, but it's nice to get
Yeah,
some
this is kind of a
updates
heads
from
up.
time to time. Yes,
Yeah,
thank you so
We have our
much.
meeting tomorrow, so I'll send those meeting minutes over again tomorrow. So thanks.
Super, thank you. So then on our agenda, we have a number of other board and committee meeting minutes from Plan Commission, Library Board, and Police and Fire Commission. Are there any comments or questions on any of those minutes? Okay, seeing none, we will accept all of those into our record then as well. So our next agenda item is reporting out on our correspondence and constituent contacts. It's been 3 weeks since our last meeting. So Greg Coots, would you like to start us off?
Sure. Since our last meeting, it actually, if I'm going to report everything, I would start by reporting several emails about the golf course rezoning, both for and against. It was a couple days after our meeting when the Planning Commission had their special meeting, and though golf course rezoning emails have died down quite a bit since that special meeting, but technically that is part of the correspondence this time. I have received multiple emails about the Century site redevelopment, both for and against it. I had an email contact and a phone call with Todd Temperley about the history of the city referendum ordinance. I had a communication about the public comment session during city meetings. I received a communication in support of the revised tree ordinance. I got a communication that essentially was mainly just expressing appreciation about the repair and the refinish of the bridge over at Bartles. And just the normal routine communications from Drake and Lisa and the library newsletter.
Great, thank you, Greg. Mary?
In addition, I received the same topics as well. I also had an inquiry about the way the dam was programmed for spring. I received some feedback on the Sandy Beach topic, proposal that is on the agenda for this evening. And then also embedded in a few other subjects that were already mentioned, just an inquiry or concern about the 3-minute time limit for public comment. And then I attended the Plan Commission meeting that Greg referenced.
Greg Waters?
The only thing I had in addition was an email based on what does city council do with public or correspondence that we get. And I can address that real quickly, that we're only allowed to talk to one other council member on any subject. So like if I wanted to talk to somebody about trees, I can only talk to one other council member, and I can't talk to the rest of them. So I did talk to Lisa Curler between our last meeting on trees because she had some suggestions to make to an amendment that was out there that I brought to city council. But since I've talked to Lisa, I can't go and talk to Greg about that same topic because that would violate the rules of council. So I think some people in public think that we just take that and talk to each other about it, and that is not the case. We can only talk to one other council member on any given subject. So I hope that clears up any misconceptions.
Thanks, Greg. Michelle?
I have nothing to add.
Okay, I had pretty much the same thing. Greg Coots did a great summary, I think, of a lot of the emails that we all received. I also had a little bit of correspondence regarding board appointments and, some of the upcoming positions on boards that are coming open. Had a number of personal conversations about the Century site in addition to emails. And I attended, along with Mary, the Parks Board had a work session yesterday on Tyranina Park, and it was kind of windy, but it was nice to be out there and walk the park. So those are the other things that I can report. Okay, our next agenda item is public comment. And because several of us received some questions and people wanting clarification about public comment, I wanted to just give a very brief summary of what our procedures are before we get started tonight. Number one, we welcome anyone who's registered in advance to address the council. We do that at every regular meeting. By our ordinance, each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. A constituent actually suggested a couple of years ago that we provide a timer because that can help the speakers to know how much time they have left, and it also makes sure that we're being fair in how much time we give to each person. So that's why we have the timer. Number two, we respect all individuals who want to speak, and we want to hear all viewpoints. So to make sure that we have a respectful environment where everyone feels welcome, I ask the audience not to applaud or boo or, make other outbursts that are sort of for or against anyone's comments, because we want everyone to feel welcome and respected. And then finally, kind of as Greg mentioned a moment ago, we listen. during the public comment item, but we don't discuss or respond with people who come up to give comment. What we do instead is when we get to that agenda item that the comments were related to, if we've received citizen input, oftentimes you will hear council members reflect that or ask follow-up questions based on the comments that we've received. So hopefully that helps. Since we've got a big audience tonight, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to just clarify how we handle our public comment. So having said that, we do have a number of individuals who are registered to speak. So I'll call you up one at a time, and I'll also indicate who's the next person so you can be ready to go. So our first person is Jan Vanderheiden, and the next will be Dana Ostrowski after Jan.
Hello, I am Jan Vanderheiden, and I live at 211 Oak Brook Drive in Lake Mills here. And I just wanted to say my great concern about this proposed building. I think it's way too big for the spot. And we have such a beautiful downtown, and it's what we have. You know, we're legendary Lake Mills. And I really think that would put the kibosh on how that is right now. I read a little bit about what other people have said, even from the Plan Commission or the council, and said maybe that 4th story ought to go, and I would agree with that. 3 stories better than 4. And I also wanted to bring up, I believe last spring you broke ground up by Wallace Park for a big development of 165 units, and I think that sounds wonderful. That's a great place for that. And also, what about by the market, another development with 100 units? And I'm thinking with these proposed developments, I just don't think we need 100 units out by our beautiful downtown here. I had thought maybe we could compromise and go 50, but that even sounds like a lot. The other thing is, I think we need to keep parking. We do so many things in the square, or in the park and everything, and you know, everything gets parked up and there's cars parked up and down the streets. I sure hate to see all that parking disappear. I think that would be kind of a disaster. And one more thing, when I look at the plans, it says 100 units plus some retail, and when I look at the picture, wow, I don't know what the retail is. There's like little doors going in there. I think we should have a small grocery store uptown. We've needed that ever since Century closed. I talked to several people who miss it, including me. Just, if anybody goes up north of Land O'Lakes, there's a small grocery store there called Charlie's. It's a little place, but you can do all your shopping there for the week. It wouldn't take up much space from what the proposed building is. You know, and if we can attract a florist, and maybe get the bakery to go uptown, you know, a men's grooming store, just something to have the nice retailer, because it is a retail area. I'm afraid with the 100 units, it's turning into a little bit of retail and a whole bunch of residential, which doesn't seem right for downtown. Anyway, those are my concerns. I think the building itself is nice, but I just think it needs a little tweaking so that the facade of it can maybe look like 3 or 4 stores, although it could just be one building, you know. Hopefully, I don't know, hopefully something can happen that we can go forward with some different ideas like that. I thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Okay, next person is Dana Ostrowski, and then Corey Worthall after that. Hey, Dana.
Hi, my name is Dana Ostrowski. I live at 413 Fargo Street here in Lake Mills. I am a lifetime member of the Lake Mills community. I am all for the redeveloping of the Century lot. I totally agree that something needs to be done. However, I am very much against this monstrosity that is being proposed. 4 stories is overkill. It's too tall, setbacks and all of it, it's out of line. And I feel it's definitely it isn't keeping with the historical look or the character of our community. A 100-unit complex is out of line, possibly 30 or 40 units, maybe even a few more commercial spaces on the main floor. And how affordable will these units be? There are a number of vacant units already in our community. And as Jan pointed out, they're already talking about building other apartments out in the area that we don't need anymore. And underground parking part concerns me. The water table is supposedly high. Is it even possible? They say it is, but you don't know for sure. And then the tenants will probably be charged an additional fee to have to park in this parking lot. And for those renters that don't want to pay this additional fee, that's going to take up those additional 49 surface stalls that are going to be part of the courtyard area. And then the overflow falls into the municipal parking lots and the city streets. And I truly feel sorry for the people that live on Water Street. They're going to have the impact of that. One of my main concerns is on the corner of South Madison Street and East Lake Street. That's already a hectic intersection. You add 23 more, add 23 angle parking stalls to this mayhem, and I see danger and accidents waiting to happen. During the day, watch a semi come down that East Lake Street. It has to cross over the center line. It can't stay in its lane. Has there been any traffic impact studies done yet? I'm asking the council to consider voting down this proposal and ask for consideration on something more favorable, smaller and favorable for our area. Thank you.
Thanks, Dana. Okay, Corey is next, and then Sue Keys Johnson will be after that. Okay, Corey?
My name is Corey Worthel. I live at 216 Church Street. I am a licensed professional land surveyor. I understand development, and I'm not opposed to the redevelopment of this site. I've worked on many properties, very similar projects. What this developer is proposing is just a very simple, cut the cookie and paste it over here, there, anywhere. Ask the developer to try harder. Our town is not just another Sun Prairie, Cottage Grove, or all those neighborhoods in Madison. You and the council need to try harder too. We have a 2-acre site and a not too pretty site that needs to be repurposed. But to allow 10 pounds of ugly on a 2-pound site is wrong. Think. Look in your mind. From the north side of the park, look south to the corner of Main Street. Look east along Lake Street. Look at the buildings. Look at the park. Look at the band shell. And look a little bit more to the east and look at what you are being asked to approve. 10 pounds of ugly in a 2-pound can. This developer wants to build this in my backyard, let them build it in theirs. The developer is asking for amendments to go 4 stories high. Do we need 4 stories? Maybe ask nicely, can you go 10? Or you can do the right thing and vote no. Tell them to try again. In the resolution 2619, the city, together with the developer, are asking for $40K in grant money. Grant money equals my money. $150K to clear the land. Let the owner clear the land. After all, it's his. $250K to the developer for site developments. Let the developer pay for this. Grant money is all of our money, and I just don't have any interest in paying for this. Item H on page 7. This line has a max limit by the developer to pay for related costs at $20K. What happens when this money has breached that limit? Will you just take mine to continue paying for it? Can I ask someone on this team to please read and explain everything within the agreement? I do not ask this as a joke. We are all just a simple public here, and I don't have your expertise, and we don't either. Does this agreement favor the city or the developer? I don't know. Asking you, Mr. Lawyer. The agreement has reference to the city's firms, engineering firms. Who will these firms represent? The city? Maybe. The developer? Maybe. The community as a whole? Most likely never. If you approve this 10 pounds of ugly, then maybe ask the developer to look into doing a mirror image across the park, east of Mulberry Street. Vote no and ask them to try again. A handful of storefronts and 25 units. Stay within the city statutes and the guidance written within the comprehensive plan that you all approved. Do what is right for our community.
Thank you, Corey. Okay, next we have Sue Keys Johnson and then Jacob Arndt after that.
I applaud you for all that information, Frank. I'm Susan Keys Johnson, 126 Fargo. I'm speaking on behalf of my neighbors and some other community members who are not able to be here tonight. Some who have attended remotely, but unfortunately that's not an option currently. The people of Lake Mills do not want a 4-story, 100-unit apartment building towering over our beautiful park and historic downtown. We do not need or want 100 apartments with over 30 500 square feet studios to encourage a more transient population. We want to build community in Lake Mills. We do not need to follow a trend established in other cities that do not have our historical history. We do not want an additional 140 cars twice a day. That's 280 vehicles in our downtown area and overflowing into our residential neighborhoods. Nor do we want traffic lights to control the downtown congestion. Those numbers are from the DOT Traffic County map. I think we can all agree that the Old Century site is an opportunity for improved development, but please consider something smaller if a downtown housing is a priority. At the very least, please consider an impact study prior to going forward with this development. I implore you to take this into consideration and to vote no on this project. Additionally, I was also informed by a contractor that bids have already come in on a HUD project for an end of September start date, as noted on the Wisconsin Builders website. Does this mean that a decision has already been made and that the process of public hearing and council readings are a facade and just a way of appeasing the community? Please address this in your discussion. I'm also wondering if social media is also taken into consideration, because there's certainly a lot of comments out there. Lastly, I want to mention that I had, on March 26th, sent a few emails to all the council members asking for clarification of the evaluation process. Thank you for explaining that more clearly to everyone. On April 1st, almost a week later, I called the city to find out why I hadn't received a message. I was told there was an email issue the week before and she would check on this. So it was a week later. I did get 2 responses that day, and a few days later, I did not hear from Greg Waters. I hope other community members' emails were received despite this snafu. Also, I don't understand why the discussion did not occur last meeting. It seems like it was a missed opportunity. I don't know if committee wasn't prepared, but at least our elected council members could have addressed some of the public comments, because no response feels very dismissive. Thanks.
Okay, next speaker is Jacob Arndt, and then looks like Nick and Nicole Williamson are signed up together.
Are you going to start me already?
Yep.
Yeah. Circumventing the public process is part of your habit. Sorry to say that, but that's part of your habit. Basically, you don't want public comment, and you don't make it easy, and you put it all up ahead, like right now, and then an hour and a half later, you'll deal with the actual subject, and then after 5 or 6 people have made a comment, you'll say, well, hearing no comments, we'll move on to the next, and that's what you did last time. So basically circumventing.
Can you state your name, please?
And then the glitches on the tech. Excuse me.
Can you state your name?
Jacob Arndt.
Thanks.
527 Mulberry Street. And then the glitches on the tech seem to be really endemic. We all, it's hard to for a couple of months, the system here doesn't work online. We can't email people. It's just circumventing the system is not part of the process, and that's a fairly serious problem we have here. And then just dismissing the public comments and the public opinions here isn't part of the process either. Now, let me get to the City of Lake Mills Comprehensive Plan. Let me just read what it says on our comprehensive plan, something that, a document that is codified and is supposed to be adhered to. And city should continue to grow with this. Of course, I have to behave like a speed freak here because of the timing here, and that's another thing about the circumventing. This is ridiculous, really. So the city should continue to grow with its historic legacy in mind. Enforce existing downtown design standards to ensure that they remain contiguous with the historic architectural character and pedestrian scale of the district. Allow for modernization of existing, of the existing while protecting historic exteriors. Facilitate efforts to preserve historic buildings. City should consider historic preservation plan for downtown Main Street and Mulberry Street plan, articulate goals, historic preservation, and provide organized framework for efforts to preserve historic properties. Should adapt design guidelines for downtown as part of the zoning code update. Work with contractors and experts in historic preservation and renovation. Work to define like zoning standards and code standards. Those are the cultural resource, that's in the cultural resource section of the comprehensive plan. Just anybody interested in the public wants to look at that comprehensive plan, scroll down and look at it, and that's the codified document related to historic preservation and cultural resources.
Thank you, Jacob. That's your time. So
Right,
I know we have
right.
Nick and Nicole Williamson are next,
Right.
and then
You need to
Samantha
get-
Wright.
You need to really get some savvy here and work with Hovde, because I've worked with
Jacob,
Hovde before.
your time is finished, so.
Years
it's
ago
Nick
on the
and
Capitol
Nicole
Square
are
on the
next.
Hovde buildings. Hovde will work with you
Mr. Arndt, please
if
step away
you
from the
ask them
microphone.
to work with them. They're not going to volunteer.
Thank you. Nick and Nicole Williamson are next, and then Samantha Wright.
Hello, Council. My name is Nicole. This is my husband, Nick. And we live on 507 Water Street. Oh, Williamson. Thank you. Okay. All right. I am concerned that a 4-story, 100-unit apartment complex will take away from the charm and integrity of our downtown. If it gets built, it will be the tallest building downtown, and the aesthetic of the building that is shown in the proposal doesn't fit with the historic look of the other buildings. Hovde Properties doesn't care about preserving our town. They care about making money, and it's up to us and you, Council, to make sure that our town's charm and integrity and the legacy of Lake Mills is preserved, even with growth and development. I think everyone, or almost everyone, can agree that the Century site does need to be redeveloped. And that growth, conservative growth to the town is important, but I think how we grow is very important to consider. Okay, so here are some questions, and I did email these to you all, but I want to just really emphasize them here, that I hope are taken into consideration and discussed during the meeting tonight. So, an impact study. Has an impact study been done to show how an apartment of this size will impact traffic, utility load, property values, public services, social impact, etc.? I think we need to have some foresight here on not only the economic potential positives for the businesses downtown, but also potential negatives of building an apartment unit of this size in our town. We want to prevent infrastructure overload and other potential issues that could come up from this. Okay. And what research has been done to show that an apartment of this size is needed in Lake Mills? As others have said, there's other apartments that are being built, so is this needed? And then I want to emphasize that I recognize the economic impact that this could potentially have on our downtown businesses, and that is important. I want our downtown businesses to thrive too. However, I also want to preserve what makes Lake Mills special, and I'm hopeful that resident feedback will be highly valued and considered by the council in this decision-making process. I have a feeling that the Century site is going to be redeveloped. I don't think this is like a for or against conversation anymore. And so I'm really asking you to consider Hovde Properties to revamp their plans, get something smaller, not 4 stories, not 100 units, something that reflects Lake Mills and what we actually need. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick, did you want to speak separately or?
Oh,
No,
sorry.
okay,
Nailed it.
great, just want to double check, thank you. So Samantha Wright is next, and then Raina Severson.
Good evening, Council. My name is Samantha. I'm not here tonight to oppose growth. I'm here tonight to advocate for coherent growth. Lake Mills is not just a grid of streets. Lake Mills is a happy, thriving community. And this proposed 100-unit apartment building will likely disrupt that community. So I'm suggesting that we consider building something smaller and more coherent structurally. I'm also asking that we build with dignity and not for density. I'm asking that we build something that grows with us and doesn't grow over us. So, in my opinion, a cute little 24-unit with storefronts would be perfectly appropriate for downtown. There obviously is going to be growth, and we all want that. We just want it to be done in a way that is consistent with the values of the people that live here. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last person registered to speak is Raina Severson. Turn this up.
Hello, Raina Severson, 121 Bayfield Court. I serve as the Executive Director of Legendary Lake Mills Chamber Main Street Organization, and I am here tonight to express support from our board for the proposed zoning amendment requested by Hovde Properties for the parcel located at 204 East Lake Street. As an organization dedicated to supporting the vitality and long-term success of our downtown, we recognize the importance of thoughtful development that aligns with our community's vision. The proposed transition from downtown business district to downtown business district with a planned development overlay represents an opportunity to encourage strategic investment while maintaining flexibility, design, and use. We understand that the development has the potential to bring a positive economic impact to our downtown. Projects like this can contribute to an increased foot traffic, support our existing small businesses, attract new visitors and residents, and strengthen the overall economic health of our community. Downtown housing and mixed-use developments are critical components of a thriving Main Street. We realize that. They help create a more vibrant, walkable district and ensure that our downtown remains active beyond traditional business hours. We appreciate the consideration being given to this proposal and encourage continued collaboration to ensure the project reflects the character and needs of Lake Mills while positioning us for future growth. Thank you for your time, commitment to our community. That is all.
Raina, that's our last person registered to speak. So we will close public comment and move on to our next agenda item. That's the city manager's report. So we have a report from Drake. Our city manager, Drake, is there anything you would like to highlight?
If there's any questions on anything in the report, I'm happy to answer them. I would like to highlight the city clerk's office, who's currently downstairs administering our spring election. But I would like to note that during the February primary, a random audit, accessibility audit was conducted. This was the first such audit of City Clerk Quest's tenure with the city, and they received a 100% compliance rating with no deficiencies identified and no corrective actions required. So I think it speaks to the high level of professionalism and quality of the administration of the elections that the city clerk's office is able to provide.
Oops. I'll give you more time. Sorry, I'll give you more time.
Hit the buzzer.
Didn't realize that was on, still on. Thank you for that, and please extend our compliments to the clerk's office and all the volunteers as well that help with running all our elections. I know we have a number of very experienced staff working on this, and that's a great kudo for them. Is there anything else, council members, that you wanted to, Greg?
I just have comment. I see that there's a Lake Mills Fire Department spaghetti dinner this Saturday at 5 to 8. Is that a fundraiser?
It's more geared towards as a community event, inviting the community into the fire department and giving back and sharing the space with them. It was a historical event that fell off during COVID, and the fire department is looking to bring it back and revitalize it and continue on. So I'm sure donations will be accepted by the volunteer fire departments, but the purpose of it is community engagement, camaraderie, and just providing a time for the community to come visit the fire department and interact with its membership.
Great, thank you.
That's great, thank you. I see Chief Russ here, and I'm hoping that people will get to see our ladder truck that we just got last year, because that's a really important piece of equipment for our community firefighting. Any other comments on the city manager's report or questions?
Just to let you know, his microphone is not on. I'm right here and I can't hear him.
Oh.
I don't know if anybody in the back.
Drake was here. Was your mic on?
Or he muffled it well.
Oh, we'll try to check on that sound, make sure we're.
I believe it's on.
Yeah, I think it's on. I think it's on. Yeah, sorry, maybe it's just not projecting as well as we might like. So, okay, any other comments for the city manager? Mary, did you have something?
No.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just making sure, I was making sure my microphone was closed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then we'll move on to council business. So the first agenda item is confirmation of the city council president's recommended appointment of Barb Smith to the Board of Review. So normally, we have our board appointments are usually done in May, but the Board of Review is on a slightly different schedule where their terms end in April, and the annual Board of Review meeting is coming up in May. So we need to have this position confirmed so that someone can serve at the Board of Review meeting in May. So Barb Smith is asking to continue on. She's been serving previously.
Move to approve President's recommendation of Barb Smith to the Board of Review.
Second.
Any discussion?
Oh, Lisa, I'd just like to say thank you for saying that, because I was wondering when I saw that one on here if we were just appointing someone for 1 month or something, but
Yeah, no,
thank you
it's-
for that explanation. I
Yeah,
appreciate
you're welcome. Yeah, and they're actually 5-year terms, but they usually only meet once a year. Is that right, Sam? But it's a pretty important role. So we want to make sure we have that fully staffed. Okay, can we have a roll call vote on the confirmation of Barb Smith for the Board of Review?
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Ms. Schmager?
Aye.
Ms. Quedno?
Aye.
Mr. Coots?
Aye.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is an update on the LD Fargo Library expansion, and I know we have our Library Director, Gerard Saylor, and some other folks here.
Hi, I'm Gerard from the library. Happy to give a progress report on the building project and our fundraising. A couple of people to come up and speak. We have Kevin Epperly from FH Design, he's our architect, and Pam Strike from our Capital Campaign Committee, volunteer committee that's really been doing a great job as well. And our fundraiser, Jody Sweeney, is here as well. So if Kevin wants to come up, we have the most up-to-date slides up for the plans.
Thank you.
As Gerard said, my name's Kevin Epperly with FEH Design Architects, Engineers, Interior Designers. We've been working on this one for a long time. Looking forward to it becoming real. Not everybody's used to looking at floor plans, so I'll just do a little quick description. This is the addition. It's a one-story addition. This is the 1960s addition, and this is the original building. So we are renovating pretty much the entire original building and then adding the one-story piece. This is probably the best plan to show because it's got all the furniture in it, shows where the collection is and things. So just I'm sure everyone's been in the library many times, but I'm going to orient you on kind of what is there now and what do we expect to see. So this is the historic main entrance. There are a couple holes that were put in the floor when the children's area was moved downstairs. We're moving the children's area out of the basement and bringing them up to the main floor. So we're filling those holes back in so that we've got that floor area back. Right now, my laser pointer died.
Here he is.
Oh, of course. Well,
Gerard
I'll just come
can
up here and point.
Gerard can point. Yeah, because you need to stay by the mic.
I need a microphone. So when you come in, the existing circ desk is to the left when you walk in that historic entrance. That's really going to be kind of a quiet reading space. And then to the right is the fireplace area. And so the historic part of the building will get some restoration work. We are providing modern-day HVAC systems and controls and electrical. Well, that means we're going to have some chases and things that are being added, but we're doing our best to do that surgically. In the back corner of the staff area, we're creating a meeting room, so it's kind of in the upper left beside the historic stair. And then down by the other existing stair, just inside the building, that's the current teen area. I'll keep trying to, oh, here we go. There's the current teen area. This is the new teen area. So right now, this is all the adult area, and this will become, because the existing workroom is here, existing restrooms, we're going to move the circulation desk to be in front of the workroom and kind of be serviced by the workspaces. These are the adult computers and kind of business center, copy machine, and the opportunity to use this meeting room. 3 study rooms / meeting rooms will be here. 2 of them have kind of sliding glass doors from the teen area and 1 to the main kind of circulation corridor. It's really a pathway, it's not really a corridor. Holds, we've got some booths, teen collection, a laptop bar, some seating in that bay window. And then in the addition, this is really the adult collection with some seating along the outside of the building. This is the children's area. It starts with the older youth down to the youngest. This is a new staff work area for the youth staff. So there's kind of direct access to the teen area and access to here. There are windows in this space. These are the computer work areas. These are most of the stacks, the collection. And then this is really kind of the interactive littler kid area. We've got a boat icon out here, some book bins. There's a big circular window here with a big window seat and then book shelving that kind of surrounds that. We do have a mother's room and a restroom for those emergencies for the little kids right here. And then, of course, our large public meeting rooms with a dividing wall between the 2, separate entrances, and our airlock is essentially opening sliding glass doors. Exterior, interior, so this is our airlock, and then after hours, this is a rolling glass wall that we can close off the rest of the library, so the meeting rooms could be checked out after hours, and they would have access to the public restrooms, women's restroom, men's restroom, that's a drinking fountain, and then we've got a book drop from the exterior, so people can drop off their materials at any time into the carts that'll be in this room, and then they can just be brought into the staff areas from the vestibule. So that's pretty much the layout. of the building. We're very close to having the construction and bid documents completed. One thing that's been holding us back, you may have heard that we're doing a geothermal vertical loop system to keep the operating cost down as low as possible for the building. Well, we needed a test well to be drilled. It was scheduled in February to be done. And then, of course, this well driller is in high demand, so they pushed it back a little bit. And then the Wisconsin DOT put weight limits on the road, so they couldn't drive their drill rigs. They only had one rig that was under that weight limit, so they were trying to do as much as they could. The test well was just drilled a week ago last Friday. From the point that they drill the well, do the testing, and get the report to our engineering team is 3 to 4 weeks. So we're a week and a half to 2 weeks before we get that report. Within another couple of weeks, we'll be able to complete the design, knowing the number of wells, the sizing of the pumps, the sizing of a lot of the materials, so the electrical and HVAC then can be completed. We'll be submitting it to the state for the code reviews. They've got kind of a minimum 30 working day review period, so that basically equals 6 weeks. So we're going to wait 3 or 4 weeks before we send it out to the bidders, because it's been our experience, kind of industry-wide, that many comments are coming back from the state code reviewers. So we want to make sure that there aren't change orders because of those state code reviewers. So it'll be out for bid for about a month. We'll get those bids back. We'll bring the bids back, and hopefully they come in with our budget. We've shared copies of kind of the current budget where it sits, and there are a few copies of that timeline as well. So I think if there are any questions of me, there are a couple more that want to speak about the fundraising.
Kevin or Gerard, just to clarify, is there any remodeling or work being done on the existing second story of the building?
Yes, there is. It's all new HVAC systems up there. Our engineers have spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to do this without providing some negative impacts. So there are some existing mechanical equipment pieces under the stairwell, the historic stairwell. No, it's above. I'm sorry, not under. There's a small, one of those pull-down ladder accesses that some of you might have in your garage or in your house. Well, we've got a unit that's twice the size of that ladder, so we're going to be taking that ceiling down and replacing all those units. There's about 7 louvers in the big wall inside the room. Those are all going away. We're going to be reusing the ductwork that's hidden above that flat part of the ceiling of that tall area. And we're also going to be providing new ductwork and a unit above the ceiling that's above the stage. So part of that will come down and then get replaced. The majority of what you'll see is probably some removal of some things, but it's, for the most part, it's going to look the same as it does now inside the meeting room.
Thanks. Any other questions for?
It'll feel more comfortable, though.
Sounds like it.
And Pam Strike will give us an update on the fundraising.
Good evening. Our committee members are here tonight to thank you for your strong support of the library, of this project, and our campaign. And I am here to give you an update about our fundraising. As you recall, the council challenged our committee to raise $2.5 million as a condition of your matching $2.5 million to complete this project. And this was supported by the referendum in 2025. This is the largest fundraising campaign in the history of Lake Mills, and we're pleased to share with you and the public that we have surpassed $2 million, the $2 million mark. This monumental accomplishment was only possible with the amazing support of generous, very, very generous community members, including 155 extraordinary women, local businesses, the Lake Mills Area Community Foundation, the Greater Watertown Area Health Foundation, and local clubs and organizations. We are still awaiting news about the state application for a grant. Our intention is to complete this campaign by the end of June, and we want to offer ways for the community, everyone in the community, to get involved and help. We have many activities in process and plan to raise the remaining $500,000. We wanted to share those plans with you tonight. The committee recently sent out a letter and materials to every business in Lake Mills, and we have provided information, testimonials from businesses that have already contributed, and we have made visits to those businesses. The committee recently sent a letter and materials to each of the local townships served by the library and requested a small contribution, but most of all their assistance in reaching out to the residents of their communities. Many of our donations have come from members of surrounding townships, and we thank them for their support. Through FEH, we've had initial conversations with many local contractors to discuss potential in-kind donations of materials and labor, and there's quite a bit of interest in that. We will also host the May Conversation with Thrive event here in Lake Mills, where we will talk about the services that the new library can offer businesses, and we expect about 50 businesses to be represented there. We are planning events with the Optimists, Club 55, Senior Connections, and actually any organization that wants to hear and is interested in our story. Our hope is that our inspiring journey will encourage them to join us as well. We have identified additional individuals who will be and might be interested in making gifts for naming opportunities, and I think that Gerard has an updated naming list that you can take a look at where our progress is there. It's absolutely amazing. A local couple has offered their home for a small event where we're inviting potential donors to come and learn more. And most importantly, beginning in June, we will conduct a community-wide information campaign. We will seek gifts of every size and hope to involve as many children as possible. Our main focus will be the sale of engraved pavers. We have 450 large and 450 small pavers available. They're going to be placed in the outdoor patio areas so families can leave a legacy and businesses can use this unique marketing opportunity. The pavers are $500 for a large and $250 for a small paver. Finally, we're reaching out to alumni who have moved from Lake Mills but are still connected to us. We will make a presentation at an alumni event on June 27th and participate in the Town and Country Day Parade. This has been a very, very long campaign, but weekly we are genuinely touched by the generosity and the excitement of all of our community members, both near and far. I want to thank our community, our committee, and our library board of trustees for all their tireless effort to make this dream a reality. We have a long way to go, but the finish line is definitely in sight with your help. If you or anyone listening tonight has made a pledge, thank you. And if you have not made a pledge or a gift and you'd like to, we invite you to consider that. There's information on the website, and just stop in the library and anyone can give you information about that. But most of all, just help us spread the excitement because it is definitely present and we see that daily. So thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Pam? Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything from me at all?
Any other questions? No, I don't think so. Thank you for the update. Very much appreciate it. Congratulations on surpassing the $2 million. That's a great accomplishment. Okay, our next agenda item is a discussion and possible action on a proposal by Martin Dula for food service at Sandy Beach Park. Drake, do you want to start this off for us? I don't know if Mr. Dula is here or.
Sure. City staff was approached by Mr. Dula with an idea for a different method of providing food service for the 2026 season. His proposal is included in your packet. The way this differs from past leases and the template lease that the city currently enjoys and was approved by template by the city council is this is a service interior to the park. So he's seeking essentially exclusive use as a food truck purveyor to set up a quasi-permanent seasonal food service with a sit-down area and kind of more activating the space than the food trucks that are currently located in the parking lot. So we would need to craft an individualized lease to allow something like this. There's a number of requests that he's made within his proposal to potentially do this for the 2026 season. And then he is aware that this would be likely a temporary allowance while the city is pursuing the goal of a more permanent food service option within a park shelter in future years. So if there's questions, we can do our best to answer them. I don't know if Mr. Dula is in the audience tonight. But we would, tonight, if the city council wanted to move forward, we would need some direction to negotiate and formalize a new lease agreement with Mr. Dula for the allowance of what he is proposing.
Okay, are there any questions from council members on this proposal?
Yeah.
Greg Coots.
It was an interesting proposal, an interesting read when I saw it. One large question that I had looking it over, though, because this is, like you said, this is new and would be an interior to the park instead of where the food trucks have been in the parking lot, and because it's exclusive, is this something that we can just grant a year lease, or is this something that would have to go out to bid?
We could negotiate a lease with this proposal. You're not required to issue an RFP or go out to bid for a service.
Okay.
Michelle?
This is like a normal food truck. There's no need for any kind of infrastructure, correct?
He is asking that the city either install a plug-in. There's a picture kind of noting the location at an existing meter. So there would be a cost associated with that, or in the absence of that, the request for the use of generators to run the food truck.
Okay.
I've got just a follow-up on that. Do we know what the cost would be on the electrical install, and would we be needing that electrical install in a more permanent installation, or would that just be for use for this temporary approach?
I don't know whether it would have a future use, during and following the kind of park redevelopment that the city council is pursuing. As far as a cost, it would require the hiring of a electrician to install. So it's not going to be significant dollars, but I would estimate it, if I had to, at under $2,000 for the installation of the service.
Okay.
Question. I actually think it is a really innovative and interesting idea that I think would be a great bridge. Before we don't know what the plan is going to be for that new concession pavilion and the timing, whether it's really a 27 or 28. So I think I'm calling it a pilot, a 2026. I'm in support, I should say, of a 2026 proposal. Have this as an approach to bring some vibrancy to Sandy Beach, bring some adult presence, and draw in community members and citizens. So I support this proposal. I happen to also have some, I would say, personal relationship with Marty Dula. I don't know if anyone has met Marty. He's really involved in the community. He's really involved locally in his church here. He is very service-oriented. He has had roles at many local businesses. He has experience in food industry. And what's also interesting about Marty is he has a very strong relationship following. So he has a brand, which I think is really positive and interesting, meaning and he's got a small, I think his scale, his pictures look like it's grand, but his menu looked modest and affordable, and I think it would welcome everyone and everyone's budget to be able to come. That I think that he would be a good, since he's picking up all of the legwork, and the question I have though for the city is it's reading as if he is picking up all of the heavy lifting, so putting in chairs and tables. And so curious on, are there any behind the scene expenses or city staff expectations that weren't noted in his proposal that you would say would cause you pause for us to support it, so something we don't know? Because otherwise I will support if there's something that's really time-consuming or big concern on your end, on the staff side, the Parks team in particular. I would like to just hear that before I would like to suggest we move forward with a motion, but I'd like to hear from you a little bit.
I think within the lease, we would structure it so as maintenance of the area within is the responsibility of the purveyor. That storage, the necessary removal and storage of things at end of day is the responsibility of the purveyor, and that, there could be, that the city could at its discretion, if the terms of the lease weren't abided by, terminate that for, if we had issues there. So, the proposal, does, mention taking care of those things, and so we would formalize those in the lease to ensure that staff support of that private function is minimized.
Okay, good.
Michelle?
So let's say we approve this and he starts this summer, which is great because that's really quick to get it ready and up and going. And then we move forward with our renovations to Sandy Beach. Does this provider or purveyor, my bad, have any kind of like a, what's the word I'm looking for?
Right?
Yeah.
No, there'll be a specific term to the lease that would require a renewal if we wanted to continue it in the future.
Okay.
Greg Waters.
I agree with a lot of what Mary said there. One of my biggest regrets on council is that we haven't been able to move the food service forward in the Sandy Beach Park area. This actually checks a lot of boxes that we've been talking about and looking for. So it's very positive, very innovative for Mr. Dula to come up with this, and I applaud his effort and support his effort, actually. So I would support city staff working with Mr. Dula to formalize a lease to bring back to council.
I have a couple further questions. I don't know Marty, so I take your word for it that he's a great guy, and I agree that the approach is innovative. It sounds like he would be a good person to operate under this, to operate this kind of a proposal. I think we have others in the other businesses in the community that would also do a good job at this kind of approach. So I guess I'm a little reluctant to do this without offering the opportunity to other possible vendors if this is what we're thinking about doing. I guess another question mark in my mind is, this is not the first time we've had a request to use the bait shack, but now we have a very clear plan and recommendation from our Parks Board to remove the bait shack. And so I just wonder about, if we were to engage in this with the expectation that he could use the former bait shack for storage, that might prevent us from moving forward with some of our beach improvements. So I'm just not quite sure of the timing. I guess, so those are comments. And maybe one other comment would be that we'll be hearing, I think, in the coming weeks about the staff's recommendation for our capital improvement plan. And then we'll be talking about, well, when in the next 5-year plan will we be building the new concession building? So, if it's in 2027 versus if it's not going to be till 2030, I guess I personally might have a different feeling about moving forward with this. So, Drake, any thoughts about the bait shack or the CIP?
I think if the city council was hoping to remove that bait shack yet this year, then that obviously we would not want to provide that as a space for it. I think that there's probably a difficulty in removing that bait shack this year because I believe the Clean Boats, Clean Waters program does use it for some storage of material, the county, Jefferson County, and then as well as other, I believe other leaseholders of food trucks have also used it in the past for storage of material. So we certainly could remove it. So I think we'd want to probably come to that conclusion soon in the coming months as we lead up to the summer season. And then we would have to come up with an alternative solution for the storage of those if the council wanted to proceed here. And then that would simply make that the responsibility of the applicant to find an appropriate place to store his equipment overnight.
Yeah.
Greg, please.
And I'm sorry if I'm a little slow on the uptake here, but in section 3 with location, it just talks about a location approved by the city. Is there a specific location that this is referring to that everyone is on the same page about, or is the location still to be determined?
The specific location would be determined as part of the lease. I don't know how to adequately describe the location in the picture near that, near the existing meter. That's the preference of the proposal. So that general vicinity would probably be the first place we'd be looking. But we would need to find an area, define an area within the lease, I think.
And near the existing meter certainly would make sense, but is that, it doesn't look like it in that picture, but I also didn't see exactly where this is on the overhead, on an overhead map or anything. Is this, that's not going to, it doesn't cut directly into the flow of the beach or anything. It's not right in the middle of everything. It does look like it's a little set a little bit further back, a little more off to the side.
That's correct.
Okay. The other question, another question that I had, in number 10, with alcohol service and the Class A liquor license, is that something that there's already a food truck that this is associated with, or would this be a new liquor license?
Those liquor licenses won't be approved as part of the proposal or part of the lease. They'll need to go through the appropriate application with the city clerk's office, and then, if necessary, then action by the city council for the granting of those licenses. So it is their desire to have that, but that has a mandated approval process that would have to go through.
Thank you.
One other question. If I recall, our current lease is with the food trucks. There is a percentage cost sharing or something, I think it's modest, but it's a small part of the revenue would come back to the city. Is Mr. Dula proposing anything like that?
Yes,
for
the
his
same
proposal?
structure.
The same structure, okay. And his proposal would not exclude the other vendors who already have licenses to be in the parking lot, is that correct?
The only exclusive use of his proposal is that other food trucks would not be provided the same opportunity to set up within the park, but they would be able to maintain services as they have in the parking lot of the park.
I have one more question. It's actually for Mary, and it's more of a little more of a technicality than anything else. Is this something that's been in front of the park board, and were you speaking for the park board before, or was that just you speaking for you before?
No, this has not come forward to the Parks Board. Last fall, Marty Dula approached me regarding having an idea, and I suggested he talk, since it seemed operational in nature and not specifically related to the Sandy Beach proposal, that he speak directly with Drake and work on a plan if he decided to move forward. And so I was aware that he had an interest in bringing something unique and different to the park. He's aware of we had talked about food trucks, because food trucks did not receive high remarks, as we all talked about in our working session about the beach, did not receive high remarks for food service. It was more restaurant or a different experience, if you will. And so, which is why I'm actually excited about this. He's using a food truck as a mobile kitchen, but he's trying to create the experience with having a seating area and trying to create a destination rather than grabbing something and going back to your lawn chairs, I guess. And I think for one summer, so at least I'm thinking, I don't disagree with you regarding others possibly being interested, but the fact that he's bringing this forward, and for one summer, I mean, I'm hopeful 2027 will have something in place, but I think it's probably not likely. And so this could be a possible pilot program, not just for Marty, but for a broader scale stopgap until we have our new building in place for a more permanent solution. That I just think it's intriguing. It's low risk for the city. I personally have a lot of confidence that Marty would run a professional business. He will be there the hours he's committed to into the agreement, and that there would be, I would like to ask, I would like to make a motion, but I'll wait till the discussion's done, but that it comes with a report and a review in October, because I think we can learn about what we can learn a lot of things possibly through his experience on what we might want to entertain when we get to the point of actually being active on a more permanent scale. And this could be one just data point for us for the future. So I'm really intrigued, and I would like to continue to support this to move forward. And we didn't have a motion, but I mean,
No prepared motion.
It's discussion or possible
Can I
action,
make
so.
a motion I would like to make a motion that the city council approve the 2026 proposal to formulate a new lease agreement authorizing Marty Dula to operate his food truck and his outdoor seating proposal at the dates that he noted, with a report and review to be discussed in October.
Okay, we have a motion by Mary Schmaker.
Second.
Oops, I think Michelle got it in.
Yep.
So second by Michelle Quidnow.
Would the council like to see the finalized lease for approval at a subsequent meeting? Or would you like to delegate execution of the agreement to administration?
It's a question for you, Mary.
I'm fine delegating. I don't have, I think your expertise in the lease agreement space I support it, but I don't know if any of my colleagues think differently.
Would you second that?
I will second that.
I was actually thinking about asking for it, but I guess maybe my comment would be, I want to make sure that we're all understanding that this proposal is for a lease for 2026 only.
Yes.
And we'd be asking to receive a report in October, and we may or may not renew the lease in 2027. Okay. Thanks for clarifying that. Any further discussion? So we have a motion to ask staff to work with Martin Dula to develop a lease for providing 2026 food service at Sandy Beach Park consistent with his proposal. Sam, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Schmager?
Aye.
Ms. Quidnow?
Aye.
Mr. Coots?
Aye.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, so our next three agenda items are related to the former Century site and Hovde Properties proposal. So if there's no objections from my fellow council members, I'd like to recommend that we sort of discuss them all together and get information from the city manager, and the representatives of Hovde are here tonight if they wish to speak, and then we have our discussion, but then we would need to go through and have motions and vote on each of the three items to complete it. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Okay, so it's Resolution 26-18, Resolution 26-19, and Ordinance 1288 that we'll be discussing right now. So Drake, I'll turn it over to you to start the conversation.
For the past several years, the City Council has identified redevelopment of the Century site as its top economic development priority. During strategic planning discussions, the council identified several priorities for such a development. These included, among other things, a preference for mixed-use development with a desire for the residential component to be market rate, a developer with a history of high-quality developments, on-site management, and high-end amenities such as underground parking. This is a difficult site to develop with high acquisition costs, significant demolition costs, significant site work, including environmental remediation, and rising costs of construction. This is likely why multiple developers with options on the property have walked away over the past several years. The plan submitted to you is consistent with the city's future land use map, the comprehensive plan, the city council strategic plan, and the downtown TID plan previously adopted by the city council. It is the role of the city administration to bring these city council adopted plans to fruition. Because of the alignment of these city council plans with these city council adopted plans, the Plan Commission and staff recommend approval. The applicant is available tonight to assist you in your discussion if desired.
Thank you, and I would note that we have an updated staff memo from our planners at Mead and Hunt, and Brian Kranz is here this evening if we have questions regarding that. I guess at this point, I would invite representatives from Hovde if you'd like to come up and give an overview. Would also invite you to address any questions that you heard during public comment if you so desire.
Good evening. Randy Ginther with...
Yes. It cut out.
That's what I was wondering. There we
go. That's better.
Now you can hear me. Okay, good. Appreciate everybody's time tonight. We're happy to be here to answer any questions, clarifications for the council. We did hear several topics from the public comment, and I thought I'd just take a couple of minutes to touch on a few of those, if that's okay with council. In relation to size, and some of these topics we have discussed along the various meetings that we've attended, but for the benefit of those who couldn't attend, I just wanted to cover a couple of those topics. So the size always comes up in a conversation. Why 100 units? Why is it that size? There's a few reasons for that. One, we do pretty extensive market research, including third-party reports. We look at all of the housing needs. We work with the county, looking at their assessments of the needed housing. And our research indicates that this is the appropriate size and is needed in the community. So that's one. Two, we feel very strongly that we want to have on-site management, on-site maintenance, and having around that unit count is the economic point where that can work. So that you have full-time staff, that they're there every day, that they're taking care of this and being part of the community. So that's the second reason why the unit count is around where it is, but it's primarily driven by need and by the economic conditions. And then three, the economic vitality, as Drake just mentioned. These projects are not easy. The site is complicated, and there is an economic reality to where it needs to fit to be able to work. And so that's part of the equation that we go through. Not one thing individually, but it's a group of things that drive us to that, to that ultimately. And then three, or four rather, we look very hard at what types of units and what people need and how that's going to impact the area around it. And we've had great success in many other communities developing in downtown areas, and we find this size to be a good size. You get a diversity of residents, different housing types for different people. We don't see it being tremendously transitory in our buildings. We average 65 to 70% renewal ratios in our apartments, which is well above industry norm. So we actually have a lot of residents who actually stay. They have a variety of reasons. Everybody's at different points in their life, so we like to have that variety in our buildings because we think it builds a better community within and meets people at different points in their life. So that all goes into our nexus when we think about what the size should be. Two, on the design. We very, very much are trying to, in this project, develop a project that will fit, but we don't want it to be designed to try to mimic a historic building. That's actually something that architects discourage. Trying to recreate a historic building just doesn't work. So our efforts in the design have been to try to find that balance. We've done this in other communities where, we've done the design work where it is a newer building, but it still works with the fabric. And we had multiple discussions about this with Plan Commission and listened to feedback and made adjustments to try to get that, right. But ultimately, The scale seems big on a rendering, but all of that architectural detail is meant to break it up, make it feel more pedestrian, you know, the step backs on the fourth floor, you know, bring all that down to a little lower scale in, you know, in reality. So we work hard on that because we know it has to fit within the community. But we value the walkability, so do our residents, and we think it's a good balance, you know, on this site. You know, the site's been vacant for about 7 years, and, you know, we're really trying to find a project that works, that fits with a lot of the desires of the council's directives, and we think we've met those objectives with this design and plan and scale. See real quick. There was a question or a comment about, you know, out to bid. Part of any development process is we do validate costs. And so the work that we've done is to go out to contractors to get indicative bids. Nothing's finalized, nothing's done. It's a part of the process, right? You have to know what your costs are to be able to make sure that you can build the building. So I just heard that comment, so I just wanted to address that real quick, that, you know, that's part of the process, but it's not a finalization. No construction contracts are being signed because we wouldn't be presumptuous to assume that everything would pass through council. So, but we are validating costs because we have to make sure it works, so that we can have a surety that we're going to move forward with the project. So that we were working on. Ethan, do you want to comment on I'll let Ethan introduce himself too. Go ahead.
Thanks. And again, appreciate the opportunity. Randy pretty well addressed, and so did Drake, a number of the comments. And I just want to say on a broader note, we certainly understand the concerns expressed tonight and in the earlier feedback sessions. Indeed, as Randy mentioned, I mean, if it was economically or practically feasible to address everyone's comments, you know, we would endeavor to do that. We are very much constrained. It's as you progress in any project, you find out more and more about things that come up. So you're working through your environmental and find out the additional costs that are related to that. You know, here on the site, you know, we have a lot of unique dynamics there that are just to get a clean site is going to be a substantial investment just to get it ready to build something. And so, you know, there's a lot of competing demands on a project like this. So we've tried to address all of those in the design while meeting the feedback that we hear from the community, meeting the feedback we hear from council members, and what we know has worked and is economically feasible so that we're not delivering a project that struggles. You know, we very much appreciate the spirit that everyone's coming to, and in fact, that's a big reason why we hope to move forward in Lake Mills, because in the engagement with the community members, everyone here really cares about their community, and as a group that's trying to become a future member of that community, that's encouraging, even though there's disagreement at this stage. So just appreciate the feedback and our time to at least go through this process.
And could you introduce yourself for everyone?
Sorry, Ethan Schwenker, the Chief Operating Officer at HUBD.
Thanks. And I'll hopefully have you stick around in case there are any questions. Any questions immediately from council members? Thank you. Okay, so we have, again, we have 3 items tonight before us that would be approving the general development plan and precise implementation plan, which we have included with our agenda. There's a resolution to approve the development agreement, and then there's the zoning amendment, which would amend the zoning on the group of lots from downtown business to downtown business with a planned development overlay. So would anyone like to kick off conversation about the proposal, the 3 items?
I'll be brave.
Okay, Michelle.
Before I kick off any conversation, I'm just wondering, Drake, could you address a comment that was made earlier this evening regarding the, just a minute, let me find it, because, the grant money that's being used. Can you address that information?
Yeah, there's information throughout the development agreement that lists public participation as well as the city agreeing to assist in the application for state grants. So there's a site assessment grant that the project may or may not be eligible for. These are through the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. And then the Community Development Investment Grant. If you recall, with the redevelopment of what is now the pharmacy tap room, the city participated in the application for that process as well. In order to be eligible for a CDI grant through WEDC, a resolution has to be adopted by the city council, which would occur if this approval moved forward at a subsequent meeting. And that is the $250,000 grant that is specific for developments within downtowns. So it's a specific program for downtown developments and requires that kind of commercial aspect in addition to downtown housing. So that is the grant. Those are the two state grants that may be pursued in conjunction with this project.
Is that state grant something that the city has to pay back?
No.
So it is
No,
not.
the grant is granted, it can either be set up as a pass-through through the city or granted directly to the developer, depending on who makes the formal application.
Okay, and is that in conjunction with the TID?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so thank you. Whoop, what?
They're both contemplated in the development agreement.
Right, thank you for clarifying. Okay, all right, so I was, I'm gonna be brave and do this in a way that I think is gonna be the most logical. I want to start by saying that there is certainly a lot to consider with this type of agreement. A lot to take into consideration, a lot to process. This is a big, big jump for Lake Mills. It is not an easy decision by any means. So as much as I hear your passion, and I too am a passionate person, so I feel your emotion as well, which kind of sucks. But the point is that I know what you're feeling, and I kind of am of the opinion that if you build it, they will come. So as much as it pains me to see Century Building go down because there's a lot of memories for me. I would go there with my grandmother into the flower department and pick out flowers every Sunday. We would get the certain kind of ambrosia chocolate to be able to make chocolate nut clusters every Christmas. You know, there's a lot of memory there that I can assure you that I share with you. It isn't an easy decision by any means. And I understand why so many of you would think that this is potentially an ugly building. I appreciated the comment that was said regarding how it was described, but one of the questions that you may not know that has been asked of the builder was how exactly did you contemplate keeping it to what exactly it looks like throughout the rest of downtown? And they provided a really good explanation. Now, he did give an additional example of what was said was, we don't want to reinvent what is. We do want to keep to what can be. And as much as it looks like a big chunk of building, there's facades in there that are meant to look like downtown. It isn't going to look the same. Those buildings are over 100 years old, and they're falling apart. So in this, I just wanted to put it out there and say that this is not an easy decision. I will cry over all of the decisions that are heavy like this, but do know that everyone sitting up here is very, very passionate about doing what is in the best interest of Lake Mills. That's all I have to say for now.
Thank you, Michelle. I'd like to add something kind of along the, picking up on some of the things that you said. There've been some emails and comments that maybe we're not listening or, asking what the process is if we don't always respond to every comment. And I want to assure people that I, as an individual council member, have read every email. I've followed up on the questions and the issues that people have raised, and I've carefully considered all the way until, tonight, listening to all the input. And I'm really appreciative of everyone that has shared their input and come out and been engaged on this site. As Drake mentioned, this is probably, in my 5 years on the council, probably the most important decision that we'll make. And it's very important for the future of our downtown, I believe. And I'm really grateful for all the people that have participated, and I'm grateful for the process that we've had. Staff have worked countless months before we ever saw anything, I'm sure, in explaining to many developers, even prior to Hovde Properties, on what our requirements are and what we're looking for. And our Plan Commission first saw the concept plan in December. They made suggestions. They held a public hearing. They gave a unanimous recommendation for approval. So that's 6 citizens there who heard public input and who made a recommendation to us. And then we've had this on our agenda the last 3 meetings, heard from many residents at these meetings. I've talked to many people around town, gotten lots of emails. So I feel that we have had a very robust public process, and I'm very grateful for everyone that has shared their input in that. So that's, I guess, just one thing I wanted to say at the outset. Anybody else that would like to toss in a few words as we start our discussion?
I can go. They
Don't I will.
both did a great job summarizing and talking about the decision process. I'm willing to explain my vote a little bit as I talk through this a little. I know that we've had over the last 7 years, people come and kick on the tires a little bit and check with city staff, and we've seen that this builder is very proactive. They've stayed on course and kept the conversation going, have listened to public feedback, and the project's evolved as it's moved forward. As I look at this new building that they're proposing, and I look at the existing building that's on that site, there's no doubt in my mind that this is a much nicer project than what's there right now. It's a $21 million building that's coming in. It's going to house 100 apartments. And one of the things that when you do look at the comprehensive plan is the need for housing for some of the different generations within our community, and to have housing for some of the seniors where they can actually walk to the restaurants, they can walk to the shops, they can walk to the park. I think that's a nice addition to the community to have that type of feature. The prospects of bringing more business downtown, of course, we've had some letters from some of the businesses downtown. They're fully support this project and are very positive about getting more traffic in their shops. So that's a big thing. We have seen the downtown area grow here over the last 5 to 7 years, except for that section of the downtown. We've had some good businesses come in, and we want to see our businesses succeed within our community. So for me, it's a pretty easy decision, and I do support the project moving forward. So.
So I've only been in the city council for 2 years, but I do know that there have been, I recall when I first moved here almost 9 years ago, early on in, when the Century first closed, a lot of perceived interest, and then I've learned that there have been a lot of interest of people trying to make the money work. And so I appreciate that the Hovde team sharing that this particular parcel, just the cost of buying it alone, I mean, if you do the math, it takes scale, it takes something larger to make this particular parcel viable. I know there have been a lot of really neat ideas. I've had a lot of citizens over the course of time give super cool ideas. One was a tea house. How many cups of tea you need to sell to just recoup the cost of the land alone before you even, dig ground. And so this is the right fit for based on the comprehensive plan materials, but also best fit for financial efficacy. This will be something that works, and we've known that for a long time we've been talking about multifamily as a part of the comprehensive plan in this space. So I feel like having multifamily with some mixed use is the right fit, and I think the size is, generally speaking, to make it work, around the right size. I have been listening to many of the concerns regarding the size, and I have one point of interest, and actually it kind of spurred my thought, Michelle, the last meeting when you brought up the really nice property, the Lamp House Apartments in Wanakee. And there's 103 units. And I was curious, like, why did you bring that one up? And I don't know what you were talking about, I call it dental work, what you specifically you were talking about, but I went out and looked at the Lamp House Apartments. And so what I found it to be, for some reason, just super attractive. And I said, if this is what was coming to downtown Lake Mills, I would be like, oh yeah, everyone's gonna love this. And I think what I've concluded is when I have a pause on, that it just kind of all resonated together with some of the comments that were here tonight and others I've received, and then looking at Lamp House, is that our fourth floor facade only has a short setback from the front face of the building. And I feel like from the park, that fourth floor, given that we have that exception to get that extra height, I know just that front face of the park, not the entire building, but the front on East Lake Street, to me, I asked myself the question, could we make that front face not feel as four-story with a larger setback like you have at Lamp House? Is there a way that you can, figure that gray band that looks like it creates a box structure that makes, I think that's, and it could be just a picture, and it's hard to visualize it when it's really built, because the picture, to me, made it look like a big, like, I don't know, box at the top, and then this beautiful architecture. I appreciate the changes that were made from the first rendition to the second. I think there's some complementing elements to the pharmacy building, which has some of the black lights, and you've added that, and some of the canopies, and I like the changing architecture at the top of that first three-story facade. But that architecture, I think the transition to that straight gray piece makes me pause on the size element, like it would feel, that's the part that makes me, I feel like it feels big, but I don't know how you solve creating a deeper setback. Like the Lamp House, you don't see the fourth story, because you've got this cool sitting area out in front, and the fourth story has really, I don't know, I don't have an aerial on it, but it looks like there's a decent setback, so the fourth story isn't really like apparent on the front street. And so it's a comment on just thinking about and I don't know if it's what the solution is, like, take the 6 apartments out on the front. I don't know if that there's a solution, but that's just one observation to me that is a question on, is there opportunity for thinking about how we could solve a problem and making it feel less intrusive on that fourth floor on the front facing of Commons Park. And I know it's been through planning. I know they did not discuss this specifically. They talked a lot about the face of the first 3 stories. And so I don't know if it was a gap or just wasn't a question that they had asked, but that's one thing on my mind, and it's trying to address the citizens' concerns about the size, and I think that piece is on my mind. But I support everything else. I feel like that's just one, that one strip on the front is feeling like it doesn't quite fit the downtown.
I've got some stuff that Greg Creed.
It's my turn.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
With some of the comments that I've gotten over the last 3 weeks and the comments tonight, I do want to start by saying that I value every person who wants to say something to me and the council and the city. I can only say that. I honestly mean it, and I hope everyone realizes that I struggle with complex decisions when they're in front of me. You can believe me or not, but I really do take all the comments to heart. I also can't vote both ways on things that come up. I have had people in person tonight, in emails. I've had people tell me to vote for this. I've had people tell me to vote against this. And someone has to be left out. I can't do both, and I suppose I could do neither, but that would kind of be not really the right thing to do either, just never voting on anything as a council member because it's too hard. We also only get to vote on the council on what's in front of us. I can't vote on a 40-unit project tonight. I can vote on a 100-unit project. There are 3 separate resolutions, and we can vote to approve the rezone, but not this specific PIP, if that's the way that it goes. But I can't vote for a 40-unit project tonight. What I do want to do, because one of the citizens that contacted me, I did a better job putting some feelings into words that I don't think I would have done as good of a job, so she said it was okay if I quoted her. What she said is, what makes Lake Mills feel quaint is not just its historic buildings, the beauty of Commons Park, or ample street parking. While those things certainly matter, they're not enough on their own. True charm comes from life. It comes from people filling our streets, gathering in our businesses, running into neighbors, and creating shared experiences. It comes from energy, connection, and a sense that something is happening here. Without that, even the most beautiful downtown becomes quiet in a way that is not peaceful, but empty. We just went through a series of discussions about a potential rezone of the golf course. One of the issues that came up in many of those conversations was the concept of no one comes, so the golf course cuts hours, and now because the golf course is never open, then people don't come, and then because people aren't coming, hours have to be cut back. And without trying to solve which came first, the chicken or the egg in that case, what that is, that's a known feature of struggling businesses. It's called a death spiral. That is not my term. That's a term that's out there. That is what it is, and it's this self-fulfilling prophecy, which is why it is so brutal to businesses, because you can't make money if you're open, but when I'm open, I can't make money. And what are you supposed to do with that other than eventually give up and close? And the reason I'm bringing this up isn't to revisit that, but because that's something that sadly I can see happening at times in some of our other businesses in Lake Mills. One of the comments earlier tonight asked about social media. To answer that question specifically, each member of the council has their own relationship with social media, will read or not read social media as much as they want, and give the opinions found on social media as much weight as they feel they should. So it's up to every individual person what they think of social media and how they're going to interpret that. There was one comment in one of the Lake Mills community groups just a couple days ago talking about cost cutters. Is Cost Cutters open? It looks like it's never open. I think it's closed. And the answer that someone finally gave was, oh no, it's open, but it's only open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Well, that's describing the death spiral. We've got a business, but it's not open during all the business hours you'd think it'd normally be open. And what do you do with that? Something that came up in connection with this project that has been talked about is costs, and it's not just the cost of everything continues to go up. Even if we want to just stay the same as a city and never change anything and never make any changes, the price of everything will continue to go up, and everything will continue to get more and more and more expensive until something has to give. If you go back and listen to the discussions about the new wastewater treatment plant, that is something that is going to be built in Lake Mills in the coming years and is going to cost, I apologize because I don't remember the exact number, but it was somewhere around $30 million. That's because that's necessary and needed, and it's part of state statute that you have to maintain a certain level and plan for certain things. It would be illegal not to. The city council does as good of a job as it can trying to control costs, and in our last meeting, the council, all 5 members seemed pretty thankful that the designers came back with a administration building that cost about $800,000 less than the first go-around did. So, yay that we saved $800,000, but it's still going to cost, again, somewhere in the $30 million ballpark. Saving $1 million helps, but it wasn't even $1 million, and that just happens. Some of the past discussions have talked about, the rising cost of water, and frankly, everyone's water bill is going to go up. That in the coming years, that is something that's come out. That would be true even if we don't build the plant, but especially if we build that new plant. And what was said in one meeting in this chamber, someone said, it was stated, the only way that costs will not go up for individual families or individual people is if the cost is spread over a wider base, if there's more people to distribute the cost amongst. So that's the dilemma. Even staying the same doesn't mean it doesn't mean no growth or no change ever. This is why I don't normally talk as much as I do. I'm not good with endings, so I don't know.
Want to take a break?
Don't know exactly how I want to
to
end, but yeah, if you can just bail me out right now,
Okay.
that'd be great.
All right, well, I'll add a few comments from my perspective. I really appreciate, Greg, your reading those comments from one of our constituents. I thought they were very compelling in terms of thinking about the vitality of our downtown. Some of the questions that people have raised that I do want to make sure that we address. Housing needs was one question. People, several constituents have asked me, how do we know that there's housing needs? Jefferson County did a residential market analysis. I forget if it was 2022 or 2023. And their conclusions were, this was independent of the work that Hovde explained tonight, their analysis, but Jefferson County's residential market analysis is that current renters do not have enough choices because there's low supply and there's low vacancy rates. In other words, all the apartments are rented, so the cost is never going to go down, and then it's hard for, current renters to find affordable places. The demand that Jefferson County is expecting in the next 5 years for the county is 2,000 new units, with almost half of that demand needing rental. So 1,000 rental units is what they're projecting would be needed over 5 years. This is 100, so would only be one small piece of that. Some people have asked me about condos, and it would be great. I think a lot of people would love it if this was a condominium form of ownership. There's just a lack of interest in the development community to build them. That's been true for many years if you do any research on that, and I'm not an expert in this, so I don't know all the reasons, but there's a lot of legal reasons why that's not desirable. So I don't think we can just wait expecting that there's going to be condominiums built. And really, we need, somebody else commented on this, I think we need all housing types in Lake Mills. We need small starter single-family homes. We need larger homes. We need apartments of all sizes, including the studio size, which I think is a better price point for some people. And so that's going to be, that's something that I think this development addresses. People have asked about utilities, and Greg, you hit on that a little bit. That's come up a number of times in the last couple of years as we've had development proposals come before us. And first, I want to assure people, the city staff review the utility plans and consider the capacity of our system every time they're looking at a development proposal. So that's always being looked at by our staff experts. And also, we're required to have utility capacity for our water, our wastewater, our electrical, to support out for 20 years of projected growth. So it may seem 100 units in a 4-story building may seem like big in the space that it's being proposed in, but that's not a lot for our utilities. Our utilities, our wastewater, water, and electric can handle that volume and the additional commercial. So that's not something that needs to have any special study. That's something that, we know and that we've planned for. Another question that came up that I wanted to make sure that we're addressing is traffic. And some people have asked for a traffic study. If you haven't lived here that long, as was mentioned previously, the site's been vacant for, I thought it was more than 7 years, actually. It feels like more, but at least 7 years. So certainly it hasn't generated much traffic since the grocery store has been closed, other than when visitors park there during downtown festivals or other kind of peak times. But the Century grocery store had regular in and out traffic all day, all evening, and it was primarily accessing via Lake Street. So in my opinion, the vehicles that we could expect from a 100-unit apartment building would be comparable in volume. It might be certain times of day rather than in and out all day long, but it would also be limited to Water Street, which I think is an improvement over having 2 driveways on Lake Street. And so because we had that past use at this property, our streets and traffic controls, I believe, are already sufficient to handle what would happen here. It will be different than what people are used to from the last 7 years because we haven't had, an active business or residence there. But I don't think, I think our street system and our traffic controls can handle all of that. One other issue that people have raised is parking. And if you look at the planner's memo, because this is in a downtown business district and the unique requirements of that, there's actually is no requirement for parking to be provided at all. The current site is not a public lot. The current owner hasn't prevented people from using it, but, technically it's not something that we can say, oh, we're losing that because it's not public parking. Now, I believe, looking at the proposed development, that it is providing enough parking spaces for all the residential units. In addition, closing off Lake Street, not having access there, is going to be 23 new public parking spaces. So to me, that sort of is a net benefit. But I also look at that in the context of there's actually no parking required at all, but this proposal, I believe, provides sufficient parking. One other thing that a couple constituents brought up to me, I don't think anybody raised tonight, is green space. And again, that's not something we would normally expect to see in a downtown site because, downtown, that's your infill and where we would tend to have less green space. But actually, if you look at the proposed documents, there's about 10,000 square feet of green space now on the site, and it would be about double that under the current proposal. So one of the things I like about the proposal is although it doesn't have the building going all the way up to the sidewalks on 4 sides, which it could. That would be allowed under our ordinance, or with minimal setbacks. Instead, it has greater setbacks, which to me gives less of a feeling of that enormity when you're walking around as a pedestrian, and it provides opportunities for trees and other vegetation, so some green space that I think is appealing. So those are a few things that have kind of, that I've been thinking about and that I wanted to respond to that some constituents had raised. Is there anyone else who would like to take a round 2 of comments?
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
I like, Lisa, how you were addressing constituent questions. And one that I had that I think is worth noting regarding the goals of, and I think it was mentioned as a public comment, the goals of the multifamily in Lake Mills and the concern around the number of multifamily apartment areas that we are going to be developing or are in development. And we have some growth goals that have been noted as part of our comprehensive plan, and it's been part of our strategic conversations. And with this 100 units, we are still in we have, I say it's like a 60-40, but it'd be 60-40 is kind of the maximum amount of single-family to multifamily. We would still be within our goals for the number of multifamily units we have as a population or as a percent of our total housing here in Lake Mills. So this doesn't put us over as having, being out of our, I don't want to say tolerance, but out of goal for us with adding this 100. So I think that's worth at least noting also for somebody who had asked that question.
Anybody have other thoughts that they want to share? Drake, I actually had I guess kind of a question, or maybe just for, make sure everybody has an understanding. As a part of our development agreement, this is in a tax incremental financing district, which was set up by the city a number of years ago, intentionally to provide incentives for this site to be redeveloped. And so we're going to be using that. If I'm understanding the documents that we have from Ellers correctly, we wouldn't be borrowing until the site, until the construction is completed, and we would be receiving, then we would be starting to receive increased taxes at that time. Is that right? And maybe could you just elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, assistance is not due until occupancy has been granted. That is to prevent the development from ceasing partway through, or for the building not being constructed. So it's structured so that the building must be built and occupied prior to the TID exercising its obligations.
Thank you. And so I know there was some comment about whether the development agreement, is in the city's best interest, and I think that's one of the things that the agreement does to protect the city. Yes, we're providing an incentive because we want to see that site redeveloped, but we're not going to be left in the lurch if for some reason the development doesn't get completed. We will not have.
I would note the TID portion of the development agreement is contemplated that the development itself is providing that assistance. What I mean by that is that there's a guaranteed valuation, $21 million, and then there's also a clause that if the increment, the new value generated, the revenue generated from that project fails to pay for the obligation that the TID has incurred, that the developer makes up the difference of that. And so the developer and the city have worked to come to an agreement that works for both sides to ensure that there's adequate protections for the city, while also ensuring that the pro forma of the project financially pencils out so that it can be brought to completion.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So you've described a couple of ways that agreement and the way that the financing is worked out, are in the best interests of the city, and make sure that we're protected to the extent
So
that we can.
another way to put it is that the incentive doesn't exist if the development doesn't exist. So this isn't These aren't dollars from the city's general fund. These are not general tax dollars. These are not coming from the levy or things of that nature. It is the revenue that is being generated by the project is being used to support the project.
Thank you. Greg?
I have a procedural question for Mr. Drescher. Should we be considering ordinance 1288 before we look at the resolutions?
I think you conduct the third reading of the ordinance. It's kind of a chicken and egg situation. You can't rezone or amend zoning to include a planned development district overlay without approval of the general development plan, approval of the precise implementation plan, and authorization to proceed into a development agreement. Those are the subjects of Resolution 2618 and 2619. I would definitely conduct the third reading of the ordinance and treat that as an independent item. If you want to address the resolutions after the ordinance, that's probably procedurally okay. If you do it before the ordinance amendment, that is certainly procedurally okay. So you have
So
options.
it doesn't matter?
I don't think so. I think you have to address the zoning amendment itself independently because our ordinances require 3 readings and overt council action on that.
Okay.
Greg, I was thinking the same thing, that I think we should probably do that one. I was wondering if we should be doing that one first as well.
Well, I'll move to approve ordinance 1288 then.
Prior to that, let's conduct the third.
I was going to say, let's have
you.
the third reading. Okay, so we've got our 3 agenda items, and agenda item F is ordinance 1288. So Sam, would you please do the third reading of that ordinance?
Ordinance 1288, amending the City of Lake Mills Ordinance 660-44A, official zoning map, City of Lake Mills, Wisconsin, address 105 South Madison, 204 East Lake Street, 203 West Street, 209 Water Street, and 223 Water Street, Lake Mills, Wisconsin, parcel numbers 246-0713-1322-016, 017, 018, 037, 038, and 039, owner Gunlock Properties LLC, petitioner Hovde Properties LLC.
Thank you.
So I'll move to approve ordinance 1288, which is the zoning amendment.
Mr. Coots will second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Greg Waters and a second by Greg Coots to approve ordinance 1288. Is there any discussion? I would just make a couple of comments. We haven't talked about these in a lot of detail, but this is a zoning change from downtown business to downtown business with a planned development district. And the reason that the petitioner is requesting this is because they want exceptions to 3 requirements of our code. So one is the maximum setbacks from the lot line. There's a couple of them, but that's a category. Another is a building height of 49 feet instead of our maximum of 35. And the other one is the apartment sizes of some of the studios and single-family are smaller than how our ordinance reads.
1 bedroom.
So, 1 bedroom, sorry. Yeah, studio and 1 bedroom, thank you. So does anybody, I just want to make sure that people understand that. Does anybody have any comments on any of that?
Question.
Yeah, Michelle.
And I might have missed it in my reading. What's the height of the 3 floors before it's the 4? Because you mentioned that they're looking for an exception of the height, so.
Drake, are you able to answer that? Do you know what the height is of the top of the 3rd floor? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
It's in there. Yeah.
A story is 11 feet. I'm ballparking that though, so 36 to 39 feet probably. Ballparking, maybe a little bit more. I did not calculate that myself.
That's okay. I was just thinking about it in terms of the exception to, or what they were looking for an exception in regard to that the Lake Street front would be 3 stories
with the fourth setback, how that would be perceived. That's all I'm looking at.
That was my comment. That was my comment earlier regarding that fourth story, yeah.
It was outlined in one of the drawings.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I just don't remember what the number was.
On one of the drawings, it shows the 49 feet, and that's only at the parapet, which is kind of that highest point at some of the corners. And then the rest of it, I think on all sides, it looks like it's about 3 feet lower, so it's about 46 feet. It still exceeds our requirement. I feel that the recess of the fourth floor on the two sides does a lot to mitigate those impacts, and also the whole building being a little further setback from the sidewalk than our ordinance would require, I think does mitigate some of those impacts. I did a little bit of investigating on building heights in the downtown, and there's a lot of variety, but there are several that are over 35 feet. And the library is our tallest building and will continue to be our tallest building, even if this is approved tonight. So, for whatever that's worth.
Yep, I'm going to change the subject. You asked, but you mentioned specifically the size units of the singles and the studios. I used to think the studios were like when I was growing up, you come in a room and it was like your bed was your couch and your kitchen was a stove. And the modern studios today, and I know it's the design of the studios you have now, are extremely popular. I think you mentioned at one of the earlier meetings that is your quickest seller. They are really popular with young professionals. My daughter's a nurse. A lot of her nursing colleagues live in studios. It's affordable. They are not transient. They like to stay put, but they have time. They want to save. They want to travel. They want to do things. And so, Lisa, you had mentioned having different size apartments and units, and I feel since we don't have those, I know there are concerns because I had a perception of studios as being a bad type of unit, and they actually are, in today's world for at least young professionals and elderly, a really popular and really well set up type of a unit. And so I just wanted to just bring that I had to learn because I had a judgment about them as well and concerns, and I think they would be a nice add to Lake Mills. Just wanted to add that studios.
Thank you, Mary, I appreciate you bringing that up, because I was trying to figure out how I would incorporate that, and that was a beautiful incorporation, so thank you for that.
Sure.
Okay, so we're still discussing ordinance 1288. Yep. Any other comments or discussion or questions? Okay, seeing none, Sam, would you please call the roll on ordinance 1288?
Ms. Quidnow?
Aye.
Mr. Coots?
Aye.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Ms. Schmager?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. So we have our two resolutions. Is anybody like to make a motion on either of those resolutions? Why don't we start with, let's start with Resolution 26-18, which is approving the GDP and PIP, and have Sam read that title for us.
City Council Resolution 2618, approval of the consolidation of General Development Plan GDP and the precise implement plan PIP for the development of the Century site with the downtown businesses B1 district with the Planned Development District overlay B1 PBD zoning. Address is 105 Madison Street, 204 East Lake Street, 203 West Water Street, 209 Water Street, 223 Water Street of Lake Mills, Wisconsin. Can I read the parcel numbers again?
No.
I don't think we need to. It's stated in the resolution, but thank you.
I move to approve City Council Resolution 26-18 as written.
Mr. Coots will second.
Okay, we have a motion by Michelle Quidnow and seconded by Greg Coots.
Is it too late to ask for a staff comment on this resolution?
No, we can discuss any of them, so sure.
Right. Can we get some comment on why this resolution's needed?
As part of the Planned Development District zoning classification, the process for adding the overlay to an existing zoning district, there are three pieces essentially that need to be approved as part of that process. The developer has the option of pursuing a consolidated process, as you see here, or doing them one at a time. So this is the consolidated general development plan and precise implementation plan process. Both the GDP and the PIP are required components of the Plan Development District Overlay zoning change in conjunction with the development agreement that remains on the agenda. So this is, the general development plan is the broader overview of a project, and then the precise implementation plan is a more detailed package for consideration.
Thank you.
A comment I had intended to make on the last one, I sort of alluded to it earlier, but I'd like to make on this one as well, is that we do have a unanimous recommendation for approval from the Plan Commission, and that is 6 city residents who we, charge with the responsibility for evaluating these kind of projects and giving us input. So that's very compelling to me. We've certainly had Plan Commission decisions that denied projects or that were split, over the years, but this one was unanimous. So I think that's very important consideration for me. Any further discussion on Resolution 26-18?
On the to be further resolved issues, the snow removal kind of sticks out for me a little bit. Can we talk a bit about that? The thought process there?
As far as why it's included in the resolution?
Yeah.
Yeah, so even after the city council approval of a GDP and a PIP, they're still required to obtain what's called the building site and operations or administrative review component. So after all of the technicalities, exceptions, or other components are addressed within the PIP and the GDP, there are certain operational considerations that the developer needs to coordinate with engineering, public works, planning, things of that nature prior to a build permit being issued. And so those are the types of things that we request from the developer to maintain on file with the approval, so that there's an acknowledgement of how the site will operate and what the plan is for it. So that is an administrative approval following the city council electing to move forward with the GDP and PIP.
So those are things that still need to be worked out, basically.
Yeah, there are general, the green space and general areas in which it's anticipated to accommodate those needs, but there is still a formal administrative process that occurs prior to the issuance of build permits.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question that might fall into that category as well. I got a question from a constituent about fire protection. And I noticed in the staff memo that it indicated that our fire chief didn't have any concerns about the ability to serve this proposed building. But is it true that there will still be, reviews from the state and things that might be required to ensure that fire prevention is achievable?
Sure. If the council would like, Chief Russ is here. He can kind of speak through what that process is. But the fire department has reviewed the plans. The fire protection is reviewed by the state of Wisconsin. It is a sprinkled building. They can go through processes and designate rescue areas, rescue zones, and the fire department indicated that they have the capability of serving and protecting the development as it's designed. If you'd like to hear from the fire chief, I'm sure he'd be happy to assist.
Does anyone want to hear from Chief Russ? No, I feel satisfied, but thanks for being here, Chief. Any other discussion on Resolution 26-18? Seeing none, Sam, would you please call the roll on Resolution 26-18?
Mr. Coates?
Aye.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Ms. Schmager?
Aye.
Ms. Quedno?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, so our third item regarding this property is Resolution 26-19. Sam, would you please read that title for us?
City Council Resolution 2619, approving the developer's agreement by and between the City of Lake Mills and Hovde Properties for the mixed-use residential and commercial development on the former Century site, and authorizing the city manager to execute the developer's agreement.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I will move to approve City Council Resolution 26-19.
Second?
We have a motion by Mary Schmager and seconded by Greg Waters. Drake, you talked about this a little bit, but would you like to give any kind of an overview on the development agreement?
Certainly, I don't know if there's additional information other than what's already been stated, but the development agreement is structured so as to provide adequate protections to the city in terms of any incentive is not issued until occupancy has been granted. The inclusion of the clause for any, if there's any, if the assessed value doesn't if there's a shortfall essentially of the revenue collected from the project, that the developer makes that up. There is a guaranteed valuation of $21 million upon completion of the project. I guess if there's, additional questions, I guess the TID in general, it has to satisfy what the state of Wisconsin calls the but-for test, meaning that there has to be an analysis that the development would not occur but for the TIF being involved. That analysis is handled by the city's financial advisor, Ellers. There's a pro forma analysis in which market data, rent information, costs, all of those things go into it to show what the gap is that is keeping the development from occurring. The development will be generating what's called increment, so that's revenue above and beyond what the site is currently generating. That increment is what is being used to assist in the project, so that, as I stated before, when the but-for test is met, that revenue does not exist unless the development occurs. The analysis does show that the project pencils out for the TIF district, and that at the end of the life of the TID is in the positive. I would also note that the TIF district was essentially created for general downtown revitalization, but largely considering the redevelopment of the Century site. If there are questions to be answered, I'm certainly happy to answer them, but that is the general framework of the development agreement as far from the TIF's perspective, and then there are, of course, other standard language that we've included in development agreements in the past. There's not a lot of public work that is going on within this site. The connections are existing. So there's not it's not like past projects where the city is reviewing the construction of public infrastructure that will ultimately be dedicated to the city. Because it's an infill development and not an extension of existing infrastructure and things of that nature. So that is a broad overview of the development agreement. If there's questions, we're happy to answer them. I guess I think one takeaway from it is based on the guarantees that the developer is willing to provide to the city. They are standing behind their project and making guarantees to ensure that it's financially successful for both the TIF district as well as for their project. And so that is what I would note as far as how it's structured and why it is structured in the way that it is.
Thank you. Any questions or further discussion on Resolution 26-19? Okay, seeing none, Sam, would you please call the roll on Resolution 26-19?
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Ms. Schmager?
Aye.
Ms. Quidnow?
Aye.
Mr. Coots?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Once again, I appreciate everybody's comments and participation, and hope we addressed many of your questions. So our next agenda item, let me shuffle my papers here. Our next agenda item is ordinance 1289, which is repealing and replacing Chapter 594 trees. So Sam, would you please conduct the third reading of that?
Ordinance number 1289, repealing and replacing ordinance 665B as amended by ordinance number 1054, and as chapter 594, trees, vegetation, and urban forestry.
Thank you. Could you close the door in the back there, because we're continuing with our meeting? Thank you. Okay, so that completes the third reading, so we can have a motion and a vote this evening on trees.
Before we get to that, can we talk about 1289A?
Sure.
Do you want me to start?
Sure.
Okay. So Lisa came to me with some revisions, which I was in total agreement for. It basically takes suggestions from the ad hoc committee, maybe tightens it, restructures it a little bit, and hence 1289A. So if Lisa wants to go into that a little bit more and what that's all about?
Sure. So 1289A, well, let me step back. So we remember the ad hoc tree committee, they finished their work a little over a year ago, and one of the products that they gave us was proposed ordinance changes to Chapter 594. And Greg kept that alive and took up the mantle and worked on some changes to give us the original ordinance proposal that we had. And in that, the original underlined strike-through version that we got from the tree committee last year, there was really three key areas that they changed. One is they had a sentence right near the beginning where they make a very specific policy statement about the preservation of trees shall be, considered in every infrastructure project. And that, I think, was really the foundation of why the committee really existed. That was very important to them. So there's that policy statement. Then there was a number of technical edits in in subsequent sections of the ordinance, existing ordinance, and then there was a creation of a new section on heritage trees. So my proposal in ordinance 1289A just does the first and the third of those, so I kind of tried to simplify it, and I'm just proposing to amend the existing Chapter 594, so it includes the policy statement that the tree committee wanted for making sure that that it's a priority to preserve mature trees in our infrastructure projects, and it inserts a new section on heritage trees. And the proposed heritage tree section is a little different than what the tree committee or Greg proposed based on what I shared at our last meeting, what I learned from the Village of Cottage Grove forester and talking to our own forester. And so one of the key things that I revised was to have the initial heritage tree program have trees that are recommended by our city forester and have no more than 3 heritage trees approved in the first year, and then up to 1 every year thereafter. So it really then is the most special of the trees in our community, and it's something that our existing staff resources, they can manage something at that volume, and all the proposals would go through the Parks Board. So then what's not in 1289A is the other technical changes that the committee had recommended, and my suggestion is that we make sure that our staff have those and that they can consider those when they're updating, which I understand Brian's working on now, is working on hiring a contractor to update our urban forest management plan, do an audit of our trees, and see what are the latest professional recommendations, I guess, if you will, how the International Arborists Association, would handle things, making sure that when we put those technical changes in, we've got the most recent information. So sorry, that was a long explanation, but I tried to be actually a little simpler with 1289A and just hitting on 2 key recommendations from the committee.
And the focus is still on public trees, not private trees that's been removed.
Yes, in the heritage trees, it's just public trees. They could be in, they could be street trees, they could be in a public park, they could be in front of one of our buildings, city buildings, but yeah, any public trees is what is retained. Mary?
So I really like the time that you took to pull this together. I think it was kind of simplified, it did simplify things. I'm curious to know why you chose, for the first year of the program, to nominate up to 3 trees, and why you just didn't say, we're just going to have 1 tree every year to keep it even simpler. I was curious about the 3 in the first year. Because it read like that, because then after this year, then that whole sentence is obsolete, so then it's like 1 a year, so why just not 1 a year? Or you can have 1 a year, but at the discretion of the city forester, so if they have like bandwidth to add 3 in one particular year, for some reason, they had the discretion to add up to 3, but they just do 1 a year. I was just curious, your thought process.
Honestly, I'd be fine with just 1. I wanted to, honor the committee's desire to, have some special trees designated, and it would take a while if you only did 1 a year. And also, just in talking to Andrew Whistler, our chief arborist, he said he already had several that he could think of that he would want to nominate. And so I thought, well, that would be a nice way to get the program started. So 3 was a little bit random, but it was just a way to kind of get the program started. As I mentioned last time, Cottage Grove has 1, and they've only had 1 for like 30 years. So I would be totally fine with just starting with 1, but then that means it's hard to pick, which one, so.
I just found I just found in a section to so they had that, it had just a 1 event, 1 time. It just, it's just offering another suggestion for simplification.
Well, I do appreciate, Greg's work on this and the tree committees, and I appreciate Greg's openness to some of the changes. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 1289A.
Second?
Okay, so we have a motion by Lisa Curler and second by Greg Waters. So Mary, would you like to make a motion?
Well, I would like to make a motion to amend ordinance 1289A, section D, procedure for heritage tree designation, to strike the reference for up to 3 heritage trees references in the D1 and 3, and then add, at the discretion of the city forester, they may nominate up to 3 trees per year, period. So that way, in a given year, they have the discretion to add more if their bandwidth.
Second.
Fits.
Okay, so I don't know if I got that language. Did you get it, Dan?
If not,
Okay.
I have a hard copy
Good.
that I struck in, I can pass over to you.
So it's just, the proposed amendment is just in section
D.
D1 and
3.
3.
Language up to 3, and then what I don't have is where you propose to add the language in the discretion of the forester up to 3 feet.
That would be at the nominations. They have up to 3. The park nomination shall be screened by the city forester to verify the tree meets the criteria. And this is number 2. Up to 3 screen nominations can be submitted at the discretion. Just kind of in there, I think would fit. So that gives flexibility, I think, for other years if there's something special or there's bandwidth, or we didn't have one for a few years and there's a gap, then he can pick more, he or she.
And so subsection 3 also needs that edit then? Parks Board shall review nominations once a year and may designate up to 3 trees in the first year and 1 additional thereafter. Did you want it?
Motion to amend struck that language.
Struck,
Yeah.
okay,
1 and 3.
got it, okay.
But I'm open if you, at the Parks Board, so if I'm suggesting that there's discretion to nominate 3, if you were thinking the Parks Board was going to approve 3, I think that would be also at the discretion of the Parks Board to approve 3. So I think that to be consistent, I wouldn't want necessarily the Parks Board to be reducing if the forester had 3 that he or she was able to bring on board.
And
that makes sense.
If I understand what you're proposing, you're trying to give some discretion to the forester who would be, who would know whether they had the capacity.
Yeah, who's
to
administering the program. I
manage,
think they
because it
sh-
requires management of those trees in perpetuity once they're designated.
Correct.
So, okay.
So I was trying to stick with 1, but then, because your 3 intrigued me, I think, why 3? And I understand it was probably to get a little movement, but perhaps there is a year where, or if we haven't had one for a while and 3 come up, they may be able to add 3 in at that particular year, but I was trying to just be able to address both.
Okay. So we have a motion to amend by Mary. Does everybody feel they understand the proposal? Does anyone want a second?
I did second it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Michelle. I didn't hear you. Okay, so motion by Mary Schmager, second by Michelle Quednow to amend ordinance 1289A. Any discussion?
Just to clarify, so in 10 years, that could be 30 trees in the Heritage Program, correct?
If the forester each year chose 3 and the Parks Board approved those 3 nominations 10 years in a row, you could have 30. So so if that, so that's something that discretion could be adding on a lot of trees.
But we would also be expecting the forester and the Public Works Department head to tell us if they don't have the capacity, and to tell the Parks Board.
Well, yes,
Or
'cause
to tell us if they need resources in order to manage those, and then we could decide if the program's too big, or if it's right-sized, or maybe there's a lot more public support, who knows?
So I still have it's reading to nominate a tree, but they have the discretion, they could nominate up to 3. So I'm just trying to make it, they have a tree, but if there are special circumstances.
I just want to understand the scope.
That's a good point, very good point.
Yeah. Or we could just make it a Hall of Fame and not a Hall of Very Good.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Greg.
It's a Hall of Fame, not a Hall of Very Good. I like 1 a year. I'm going to vote against the revision.
You like 1 a year, just take out the discretion? Did you
Yeah.
like the first strike, so you just didn't like the discretion?
No, I'm okay with starting with 3. It's starting a
Okay, go on,
program,
Glenn.
things start different, then they continue. That's fine, especially if he's already got a list.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion to amend? Okay, Sam, would you please call the roll on the motion to amend?
Ms. Curler?
No.
Ms. Schmager?
Aye.
Ms. Quednow?
Aye.
Mr. Coots?
No.
Mr. Waters?
No.
Motion fails 3-5, or 3-2, sorry. Getting tired.
Okay, well, thank you for the discussion. I appreciate that. So we're back to 1289A. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, Sam, would you please call the roll on ordinance 1289A?
Ms. Schmager?
Aye.
Ms. Quednow?
Aye.
Mr. Coots?
Aye.
Mr. Waters?
Aye.
Ms. Curler?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. And thank you again, Greg, for keeping that moving and getting it across the finish line. Okay, our last agenda item under council business is ordinance 1290. This is just the second reading. So Sam, would you do the second reading for us, please?
Ordinance 1290, repealing ordinance number 824B, stormwater regulations codified as Chapter 565 Stormwater Management, and replacing with Chapter 565 Construction Site, Erosion, and Sediment Control, and creating Chapter 566 Post-Construction Stormwater Management.
Thank you. Any discussion or comments this evening? Okay, then we will move that on to our next agenda. So that concludes council business for this evening. Our next item is announcements and recommendations for future agendas. So we already had the announcement about the spaghetti dinner. So looking forward to having some spaghetti at the fire department on Saturday. Any recommendations from council members for future agendas?
Yeah, I kind of have a question. I want to take advantage of this being my last opportunity opportunity to say I'm the new one, so I don't know. Is now the appropriate time to say something nice about Greg, or do we save that for
You
a
beat
later
me
meeting?
to it there, Greg. I got a thing ready, but we should wait until all of the other stuff is determined.
Well, I had that on my list for a future agenda to have a formal resolution to recognize Greg Waters' service on the council at our next meeting. So I think we can recognize him at both meetings if you like, whatever your preference. But Michelle's been prepared for weeks, so.
I thought your last meeting was the last one, so I came prepared. And I didn't do any revisions. You didn't deserve any revisions, so you should be
Okay.
happy about that. So since I'm the most senior member on this council now, which feels weird because I think I'm the youngest, I think it's appropriate for me to give you kind of a send-off that, because you were just shortly behind me. So, okay.
I think you beat me in a runoff.
Hold on, you're getting ahead of me. You're getting ahead of me, Greg. I'm trying to be funny over here. Come on. I've already cried once today.
I've held that against Mike Foster for years.
Thank you. I'm good. I'm glad that you did that. Greg, when we first met, we were both contending for a position on city council that was vacant. During that time, the world was in COVID mode, and so our opportunity to meet in person was reduced to video and voice. As you recall, I won the seat, but that did not stop you from trying again. Not too long after that, you joined the ranks of a completely new city council and acted as its president for quite some time. Your patient leadership and quiet strength, with a little bit of a silly smile when you made a dad joke or thought you were hilarious, brought 4 brand-new people who had so many different perspectives and backgrounds together to solve the problems presented to us. That type of leadership and vision is not easy, not to mention hiring a brand-new city manager and navigating the process none of us had experienced before. Yet, we look to you for leadership. Through it all, even though you were learning too, you were a mentor. I don't know if you know this, but you taught me many skills, and you only ever gave me a difficult time when you knew I could handle it, which then made the playing field open and I was able to get one in too if I was quick enough. People trust you with their vulnerability, asking for your advice and guidance in navigating some difficult situations. You showed appreciation for what everyone, new and renewed, brought to this council, and accepted that there were going to be difficult times and items on our agenda that would definitely need to spend some time on. Maya Angelou once said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." I know that we're probably supposed to highlight the accomplishments that you've made over the course of your tenure on city council, and maybe someone, Dan, will. But like Maya Angelou said, people will never forget how you made them feel. Out of pure appreciation, I thank you for the opportunity to work with you, learn from you, and grow because of you. Being on this adventure with you has made a mark on my life that will never be forgotten.
Thank you.
That deserves applause. That was lovely. Beautiful, Michelle. Thank you.
I don't think we've ever clapped for things like that before.
That was
Thank you.
beautiful. I would still like a resolution recognizing Greg at the next meeting, and I'm not prepared to make as illustrious remarks as Michelle just did. So does anybody else want to say anything tonight in recognition of Greg's final meeting?
Well, I brought him a little card.
Oh, very nice.
So my words are in here, but I just want to thank you because you inspired me and invited me to consider city council. And I can't pass up on those lovely words that Michelle said because they are all true. You bring a lot, brought a lot to city council and have made a big contribution to the city, so thank you.
Yeah, and I can't top what Michelle said either, so I won't try tonight. Plus, I only have so many good things to say about Greg, and I can't use them. I don't know if I have enough material for 2 different goes at it, so.
All right, well, I'll save
I'll
mine for
wait for
next
next
time
week.
too, but thank you, Greg, and
next meeting.
appreciate all your contributions over 5 years, I think it's been. So I've got kind of a list, so today's election, so the next meeting, we will have a new member who I believe is sitting in the audience to take Greg's place. So we have our annual organization meeting and election of officers. And just a heads up, I'm going to bring a resolution proposing that we change the regular meeting start time to 6:30. So that's something you can think about in the next couple weeks. So we have our stormwater ordinance third reading. Dan has contacted me about a recycling ordinance change that we need to make. Sorry, solid waste chapter. Okay.
There will be multiple changes to that chapter.
Okay.
Of our ordinances, but you'll see.
Thank you. So solid waste ordinance, and that's due to some DNR requirements. I think we need an update on a status report on the Bayberry Cottage hotels. And then normally we do a review of a formal review of our city manager every fall, and then we do a mid-year check-in. So I think the next meeting would be a good time to have a closed session, just to have our mid-year check-in, see how things are going. And last but not least, I wanted to mention Pam Lazaris is going to be stepping down from the Plan Commission after, I think it's 26 years of service, plus 10 years on the city council. And the Plan Commission will be recognizing her at their next meeting, and I would like to have a resolution also for the city council to recognize, because that's really a lot of dedication.
Prior to the Plan Commission or after the Plan?
It would be, I think it would be after, because I think they're going to be recognizing her in April. And then we would be able to, oh, yeah, so then if we could have that like in May, early May, would be my idea. But very impressive lady and very long record of service to our community, so.
Not to mention superintendent.
Yeah, lots. So any other, yeah.
Yes, I would like to make one announcement. I would like to share some thanks to the city council from our fire department, and a big thank you to our fire department. I happened to see them personally in action when they were helping out with the controlled burn, and they strategically placed their big, beautiful fire engine in my driveway of my little farmette. And once all of the dust cleared and all the water had been sprayed over my lawn to prohibit all of the fire from jumping over into my yard, I had a chance to speak with some of our lovely, talented firefighters who shared that they strategically placed their equipment in my driveway to be the last line of defense, so my building was safe. Fortunately, they had lots of controls in place, and it never made it even close. But their thanks came quickly regarding our approval of the UTV that will be coming. And I had a chance, that was a multi-units having to help out, and there were several UTVs that came from other local cities. And they said, thank you, City Council, because this is why we need this particular piece of equipment. And I got to see it in action, and frankly, until you actually see it, you're just like, okay, did we spend the money in the right way? And I can say that City of Lake Mills will be in much stronger strength of fire protection when this piece of equipment rolls around. And so I wanted to share that they thanked us, City Council, so I wanted to make sure I announced it publicly to all of us, you. So.
Great, that's great. I'm going to add on to that. You
comment?
kind of reminded me. Oh, Chief Russ is here, so hopefully you can pass that along to your team.
We're training on it tonight, and it'll be at it's actually in-house now, and it'll be in service tomorrow.
Great.
Super. They were
Great.
just a week late.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Well, I'm glad it's arrived and they're getting ready to use it.
Yeah.
Your comment reminded me that one of the constituent letters that we received about the tree ordinance from one of the committee members also highlighted the work of the forestry staff, as well as Drake, and how much they learned about the good work that the forestry staff has done and continues to do in our city. So I'll pass that along to Drake and Brian, just so you can see those compliments for our staff. Greg?
I'll save my comments for the next meeting so I can address Mr. Bartlett at the same time, and staff, of course. But I did, on a night like tonight, I did want to comment that that City Council does listen to the comments of the community, and we do take those comments very seriously. And I mean, we all have to make our own independent decisions. We all consider what's right for the community, and at the end of the day, we have to do what's right for the community. So that's what happened tonight, and you know, I respect everyone's decisions and comments, and thank you for being a part of this. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Drake, any other agenda items that you want to mention that will be coming up?
No, we will have a resolution as required by the CDI grant from WEDC in contemplation of the development agreement, which was approved tonight.
Okay. And I know you're working on issues related to Sandy Beach. Any projection on when we'll see that next?
Well, I am continuing to have meetings with our planners. I guess one thing to note is we are having difficulty hiring for the gatehouse positions, and so that we may not be able to bring forward paid parking proposals for this upcoming season because we're struggling to find staff that would essentially be a part of that. So I just want to make the city council aware we are still trying to hire, but we are having difficulties there. And then I'm continuing to have meetings with planning staff on developing that. The next thing to put in front of the city council as far as priorities, timeline, and potential costs. We are still striving for May. I will be out and unavailable at the second meeting in May. If we do hit the first meeting in June, we're still on track for inclusion of anything in the capital improvement plan. So we are still on schedule for discussions about improvements in 2027. So I just want to put that out there that we are actively working towards it. And we should anticipate seeing something in the coming months, but we are still on schedule for inclusion in the CIP discussions.
Sounds good. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, I'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Generally, yes.
Okay, then.
Can we go thanks?